Hello, everyone. We are live. If you could hear me, put yes in the chat. If you could hear me, put yes in the chat so that I know that you can hear me. Okay, perfect. All right, so uh this is the best way. What's up, James? What's up, Terrence? All right, let's start. So the best way to get the most out of today's session is to grab a notebook because I don't think my team will leave the recording up. If you have a iPad or whatever, that's fine. I like to use a regular yellow notebook. And just bear with me for a second. This is actually the first time I'm teaching this training, so you're here with me for the first time teaching this ever. And I think that as I look at the future landscape of building a personal brand, not just on LinkedIn, but on other social media platforms, this training that I'm going to teach today, the first of 4 days, I think will put you in the best position for success, especially if your focus is LinkedIn. So one of the things that I ask is you give yourself the attention that you deserve, just focus, get the most out of it, ask whatever questions you can. I'm going to address all of your Q&A, all of the questions at the end. I won't leave here without addressing your question. And I'll try to give you as much personalized advice as possible. If throughout the training you're really enjoying it, it would help if you just click the heart button. It's somewhere there. We also have moderators. I have a co-trainer that's coming as well, Shankar. But, let's start. So if you're ready to start, put start in the chat, like the live. It'll help reach more people. And let's do this. So you could see this, correct? I hope. All right, cool. And just to get a read of the room really quickly, if you already do LinkedIn live events, put 1 in the chat. And if you are just going to be starting, put 2 in the chat. So 1 or 2. Because the more that I know, the better. Okay, so a lot of 2s. That's fine. You're in the right place. All right, so my promise to you is that we will have a live Q&A where I will answer all of your questions at the end of the training. My moderators will gather the best questions, so don't worry about it. They will be lost in hundreds of comments, but we will find them. Over the next 4 days, we're going to learn strategy, visibility, conversion, and ultimately leverage. And so for today, we're going to learn how to create your live video strategy, because without a strategy, what will happen is that you'll see a lot of people doing on LinkedIn is they'll have a cute live video that never gets them clients, doesn't position them as an authority, and doesn't move their business forward. And that's not what we want, or at least that's not what I want, right? So I don't think that's what you want either. Correct. So that's what we're going to learn today. And when I say learn, I mean actually do. So you will have a place to submit your strategy to today, where our team will provide you with feedback, see if it's specific enough, see if it aligns with your business goals, all of that. Does that make sense? The second day, we're going to learn how to market your live video events, because most people don't understand that their live video events started 3 to 4 weeks ago. And a lot of their success will depend on the process that they leverage to market it. Day 3 is how to actually deliver the live video event to convert connections into clients. And, day 4 is going to be how to leverage that to scale your personal brand. So this is perfect for you if you're a true expert that wants to help your prospects by sharing what you know. And if that's you, put 1 in the chat. So this is definitely not for you if you want to gatekeep, if you think that you are going to share some chat GPT superficial information and that is going to be enough to prove that you are an expert to people to pay you in the future. That's not going to be enough between now and the future. And if you do that, it could actually tarnish or damage your personal brand in the long run. You have at least 2,000 plus LinkedIn connections because you can invite up to 1,000 people to your live event every single week. So we have found that having at least 2,000 plus LinkedIn connections really puts you in an advantageous situation because of that. You want to learn to attract high quality clients. So I'm not an outbound strategist. I have people that I could recommend to you. But even very recently, there are a lot of people who focus on outbound that are starting to see that producing some type of content, building their personal brand can actually put them in a better position when they're doing their outbound. So they'll get more replies, they'll get more calls, they'll get the calls with better people because they're proving that they're a real person. And this is all so that you don't have to cold DM people and cold call people, right? I don't know. I don't like that. I don't like to cold call. You can also share your story on top podcasts, or you want to grow your own podcast. This will also allow you, when you go live on video on LinkedIn, you are proving that you are an expert in what it is that you say that you're an expert in. So a byproduct of not just getting inbound clients, a byproduct of that is, hey, come onto my podcast. Can you speak at my virtual conference? Can you come speak at this big speaking event, not just for free, but we will actually pay you? And Shankar is in the chat here. I forgot what Texas stadium this is, but he was invited from a LinkedIn Live to speak at this particular event. You will also find that when you master live video as a skill, when you go to in-person events, it's kind of natural for that communication and that skill to just kind of topple over to in-person. You have the opportunity to collaborate with other top creators and leaders on LinkedIn. So if this is you, put yes in the chat. And to grow a private email list faster. If this is you, put yes in the chat. And it's kind of delayed. All right, perfect. Ultimately, you want to sell with less effort. The person should be coming to you already pretty much decided. They've already vetted you. You've already put out all the information. They just have a couple of clarifying questions. I don't believe in persuading somebody to want to work with you. This is not for you if you're not a business owner. I appreciate you being here, but I don't help anyone that is not a full-time entrepreneur. This is not for you if you are not willing to get in front of the camera. I appreciate you, but you have to be willing to get in front of the camera, and you have to be willing to host at least 2 live video events on LinkedIn per month. The live video events do not have to be an hour. They can be 15 to 20 minutes. But if you're not willing to do this work, then our proprietary process will not work for you. All right. And if you're looking for an automated lead generation solution that is a bunch of bots and does not require any time or energy, you should probably leave now. We'll have a moment of silence. And like the live, if you're enjoying this so far. So ultimately, why this is different. When you look at the landscape of LinkedIn, some of the top creators, a lot of them grew through posts that were not necessarily lives. So not only have I built a community of almost 1 million followers on LinkedIn, generated all of this organic traction, but I'd argue that I'm one of the few people who was able to do that through leveraging live video events starting about 2.5 years ago. And so the live video events were really the thing that completely changed my business. And they're the thing that have allowed us to build a private email list of over 50,000 people. They also were the launch pad for me going from live video event on LinkedIn to then doing webinars. There's no way I would have been able to do a 2-hour, 2.5-hour webinar and go on a journey to mastering that skill had I not ever done live video prior. So there was a period of time where I did 2 webinars per week for 18 months, every Tuesday and Saturday, to master that skill, which, if you know what is required to do even one webinar, that is insane. Put yes in the chat if you've ever done a webinar. So just imagine 2 per week for 18 months. And a lot of the traction, a lot of the registrants to those webinars came from LinkedIn. So if you do any type of private training, any type of networking, Zoom, webinar, challenge, masterclass, a lot of those registrations can come from LinkedIn. And I've also, for the last 11 months, hosted one monthly challenge, which for me is just 4, 5, 6, 7 webinars in a row, right? And now uploading 3 long form videos per week, going live on YouTube 5 times per week for the last 2 weeks, and committing to growth on this channel as well. And when I look at, okay, where does someone who is an entrepreneur have the most leverage that will last them long term, that they could focus on mastering within the next year, 3 years, 5 years, that will, against all odds, like the universe would have to not work the way that it does for them to not increase their chances of success. And so when we look at what's different, it's just I've dove into this live video skill and I can teach it to you. So I believe that live video is a skill that will put you in a position to increase the chances of success in your business. And if you're someone that's like, I'm willing to do anything, I'm willing to do whatever ethically that it takes to increase the chances of success for my business, to differentiate myself, to stand out, put 1 in the chat, or as Shankar said, smash that like button. But why do we have to smash it? Like, just click it. This is also confirmed by a lot of experts in the AI space, because as AI continues to get better and better, it will dominate certain things. So here's Peter Thiel saying AI is bad news for people with math skills. And the value of society is actually going to shift towards people that are able to connect in person, are able to connect verbally, are able to communicate on a live platform, versus people that can just do formulas like it was 10, 15, 25 years ago in the startup space, right? Does this make sense? And again, none of this would be possible had I not started mastering live video on LinkedIn. This is important for you because more of your competitors are starting to go all in to their personal brand. Who has actually noticed this? Put yes or no in the chat. Maybe in your space, that's not the case. But I have certainly noticed that people pay attention, and they understand that when one of their competitors starts to get business a lot more, easily inbound, it's because of this personal brand thing. They have more leverage. Everything else works a little bit easier. A lot more people start to do it. So we have 1 no and a bunch of yeses. So as more of your competitors go into building their personal brand, especially on LinkedIn, because they understand the value of the audience. And I would argue that to increase your chances of success in business depends really on one thing: getting the right people in front of your offer. And when we look at who the right people could be, a lot of those right people are on LinkedIn for you, especially if you are a high ticket coach or consultant. And this is why. LinkedIn is one of the only markets where a lot of people are consuming versus creating. So still to this day, LinkedIn has 1 billion users and only 1 to 3% of people create original content weekly. That does not mean that they create it well. That does not mean that they create it on video. That does not mean that they create it on live video. So you immediately go from a 1 to 3% to a top 0.001%, I'd argue, if you do at least 2 live video events per month. Does this make sense? It is also the platform where 4 out of 5 people are decision makers. So if I can reach the decision maker directly, I don't need a middle person. I can close deals faster. I can have the call today instead of going through their assistant and scheduling it for 3 weeks from today. Put one in the chat if this makes sense. And the average user has double the buying power of Instagram and Facebook. So they have more resources to be able to afford your offer. It will be harder and harder to stand out, even on LinkedIn, with a text post, image post, short video, just because supply and demand. As more of your competitors start to do it, you have to get a lot better at it to stand out. Even with short form video, you could post a short form video of you waving your hair in the wind 2 years ago on LinkedIn, and it would go, my original LinkedIners know this, it would go super viral. It'd probably get like 30,000 impressions. Now you have to deliver quality. It is both quantity and quality, which leaves you with a very simple choice. The first option is you can compete where everyone is fighting for attention. So you just have to up-level your skills and go to the red ocean. Or you can think about, what skill can I master within the next 1 to 3 years that will put me in a better chance of leverage, that will give me more opportunity, a better chance of success. And I think you know what that skill is if you're here. Does that make sense? Put yes in the chat. What skill will provide me with an opportunity to create my own blue ocean strategy? And you can prove this to yourself by asking yourself, how many of your competitors go live weekly and do it very well on LinkedIn? Probably 0. And if there's more than 0, then compare that number to the number of competitors that post text posts weekly on LinkedIn, and the number that you tell yourself will be much less. So you're automatically eliminating 99.9% of the competition. So like the live and put yes in the chat if that makes sense. So let's create your live video strategy and go through the process. Like I said, this isn't just watching this training. I want you to actually participate and submit your strategy to us. You'll learn how to submit that at the end of the live training so that we can provide you with, number one, accountability, proving that you actually did it to yourself more than anyone, and number two, feedback. So most live video trainings that are specifically focused on LinkedIn will focus on things like this. Who has seen this? You know, you need to connect StreamYard or Restream. You need a microphone. You need a thumbnail. You got to test audio. Got to test video. We've all seen this, correct? Put one in the chat if you have. Put one in the chat if you've seen this. All right. Yes, many of you have. But there's a cost that's not really mentioned. So a live video event will actually cost you a lot more if you don't do it correctly. So if you don't have the right strategy from the get-go, and we could focus on how. Number one, who's experienced this? You invest a ton of time and energy into promoting and preparing, and then nothing happens. Or even worse, you have a technical problem last minute, and then it's completely wasted. And you're like, what just happened? Okay. The second option is you get calls from the event. So you actually do it this time. You don't experience a technical glitch or whatever, but the calls are with the completely wrong people. And so now you've just done 10 calls, and what did you waste? Let's see who's actually paying attention. What do you waste if you have 10 calls with the wrong people? What do you waste? Your time. Yeah. This is you sitting there like, what happened? What did I do wrong? And you waste your time and your energy. And even more dangerous than that, okay, and I certainly don't have time and I don't have time and energy to waste at all right? And I don't think you do either. So that's the last thing you want. And it puts you in a very dangerous predicament that not a lot of people are willing to talk about as a business owner. Because if you put all this time and energy into this event that leads to nothing or leads to calls which lead to nothing, the belief in your business and in yourself will go down. Your mood will plummet. Who's been there? Put yes in the chat. I certainly have. And you may start to carry that negativity and pessimism around with you. And maybe you carry it to client meetings. People could tell you're a little off in your content. You maybe even start snapping at family and friends. Like people are like, hey, how's your day? And you're like, eh. You give people attitude for no reason. And that is a vicious cycle because then that you carry that everywhere. Nobody will want to do business with you. And then you're not in the mood to try again. And so people give up. So not attracting the right people is more dangerous than you think. And that's really the thing that I want to focus on here before we get into the actual strategy is if you do not attract the right people from the get-go, you are putting yourself at risk of wasting your time, energy, and decreasing the belief in yourself and in your business. And the cost of that is very high. So before we do anything with your, all of the things that you need to do, we need to be as strategic as possible. So put one in the chat if you're ready, because we're about to create your live video strategy. And get your notebooks, get whatever. Andrea's our COO, she's moderating. I don't know. I know on YouTube we could clip this or we could just take it down. So I don't know what the team is going to do. This is actually our first time doing this on YouTube. All right, so let's create it. So step one is I want you to think about the one business goal. And we're in August. So we're in mid-August. So there's what, 4.5-4-ish months, if you don't count the holidays, left for you to actually achieve whatever goals you set out for yourself and in your business in 2024. So let's just pretend that instead of 120-ish plus days, it's 90 days. What is the one business goal you want the live video events on LinkedIn to support for you in the next 90 days? Okay. And I was sitting with a client yesterday who just released her book. It's her first book. She's a very high-level leader. And her one business goal that we are going to be focused on until January is for her live video events to support the sales of her book so that she can make it to the 5,000 copies that she needs to sell to be a bestseller in January. So what is the top priority for you in your business right now for the next 90 days? Your LinkedIn live events should support that. And I can't tell you how many times, I know this sounds simple. You're like, oh, that makes sense. This is simple, but you'd be surprised because I see a lot of coaches saying, hey, my goal is to secure 2 inbound high ticket clients per month at whatever amount for whatever offer. But then when they go live on LinkedIn, they're dilly-dallying with 25 other coaches. They're not talking to their person. They're not positioning themselves as a leader. They're just hanging out, getting views, and then wondering why they're not getting clients. The third example is I want 500 people to join my email list in 90 days so that I can launch my group program in January. So whatever it is, I want you to write it down, and this will be part of what you submit to us, and I'll tell you where you can submit it to us. And there really is no right or wrong. It's really about where you are currently in your business. And I see a lot of people do this, that they They want to immediately do a group program because they see other people do group programs. But is that right for you where you are in your business today? Or are you just doing it because you see someone else doing it? I see people going to launch a group program that don't even like group meetings. And I'm like, you'd be much better off, just increasing the price of your one-on-one or productizing your offer and having something on demand. Because if you thoroughly don't enjoy that, then why would you build a business around that model? Does that make sense? So like the live if you're enjoying this, put yes in the chat if you're enjoying it. So there's no right or wrong. There's just a right or wrong for how you're going to use LinkedIn to achieve this goal in your business. So one goal, okay, not 10, just one. All right. And again, sometimes I see people saying clients are the goal, but then they're doing lives that are garnered towards views. And then this is my face. Okay. So the second step in this process is based on that one goal. This is very simple. Who's the one person we need to attract to achieve that goal with the least resistance? So going back to the example of my client that I met with yesterday who has to sell the books. This client also has a very high level mastermind for women in law. The people that will buy the book are not necessarily the same people who are joining her mastermind, right? So the messaging needs to change. What she posts needs to change. She needs to, for the next 120 days until January, whatever, we need to appeal to the book buyer if that is her one goal, not to the mastermind people. Does this make sense? Put one in the chat. So you really need to ask yourself, who are you creating these lives for? Who do you need to attract to achieve your one goal with the least resistance? If you want to attract more of the type of clients that you have today, all you have to do is look at your client data and ask yourself who pays you the most with the least resistance. And usually the answer will be very telling. Now, this is based on data and not based on your feelings. Because I also sit with business owners who will look at me and say, oh, the person who buys this program is what makes up most of the money in our business. And then we look at the data and it's a completely different person. They think it's a 30-year-old that shops at Whole Foods, that doesn't have kids, this and that. When we look at the client data, it's a 55-year-old empty nester that buys the most, refers the most, and gets the most results. So you really have to take your feelings out of this and just look at it objectively based on the data. If your goal is to get more high-paying clients, like I said, then just double down on the top 20%. Because the top 20% clients that you serve, they have different questions, they have different problems. And if you address those questions and problems in your live events, you will naturally attract more people like them compared to the other 80%. All right. Step 3. All right. So we have the one goal, the one person. Where's the one place you are going to lead them to? Because I'm not downloading your ebook, buying your book, buying your coaching program, DMing you, getting your checklist, watching your automated webinar, going to your website that when I fill out your email, I never get a confirmation and I can barely find the email form. There has to be one easy thing and one thing that you say over and over and over and over again. So where are you going to lead them to? It could be DM you for an audit, DM you for a consultation. It could be that you lead them to a scheduling link, that you lead them to a landing page that has a form. But whatever it is that you choose, you have to also make sure that you stick to it. Just because it doesn't work for one live event doesn't mean it won't work when you actually stick to it and do 4 consecutive live events. A lot of you are changing your call to actions like you're changing your underwear, or hopefully. Oh my gosh, that's funny. I had to. And just for reference, the call to action needs to match the goal and the prospect. So let me give you an example. If your one goal, if you tell me your one business priority is to get high ticket clients, and based on the data that you have in your business, 95% of your high ticket clients closed on a phone call, why are you leading people to download an ebook? Right? Who's done this or who's seen this? Unless there's only one caveat here. Unless your checklist or your ebook, you have proven process and evidence that when they download that checklist or ebook, they then book a call. But unless you have that email flow, then you're getting in the way, you're getting in your own way, in the way of your own sales. And then you come to someone like me and you're like, I have 3,000 emails and I don't even know how to get a client. And then I save you, right? So you have to make sure that your call to action matches with the type of person that you're looking to attract and your goal. Okay. So step 4 is, when is this person most likely to take action with the least resistance? This is something that 95% of coaches and consultants won't be able to answer. Not because they are necessarily bad at what it is that they do, but I think because they're just not focused on their clients enough. So if you can answer this question, put one in the chat. When is this one person most likely to take action with the least resistance? Why is this important? I saw a question earlier saying, well, how do we choose the topic? This is how. When you know the when, it will lead you to exactly what you need to create. Right? So I'll use myself as an example. People ask me, well, why don't you do live trainings on, how to optimize your LinkedIn profile? Why LinkedIn is more important than Instagram? Why LinkedIn is important? And I'll tell you why. Because my clients already know LinkedIn is important. My clients really don't use Instagram. A lot of them just think that's the worst social media platform out there. And a lot of them know the basics of optimizing their profile. So those aren't things that they're necessarily interested in or searching for before they work with us. What are they interested in or searching for? They're searching for how to master LinkedIn newsletters. They're searching for how to go live on LinkedIn. They're searching for how to use LinkedIn to build a private email list, how to launch their first group program, how to host their first challenge, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so if I were to focus on the persuasive topics, like this is why you should use LinkedIn, this is why LinkedIn is better than Instagram, I am choosing to basically pull teeth instead of just focus on the people that are literally right there and that need me the most. So when is your person most likely to buy with the least resistance? If you know this, then you know what topic of interest you can start to think about creating your first or your next live event about. And if you know that when, put one in the chat. And it's really just about listening in between the lines. I'll tell you another one that is happening more recently, which is my outbound isn't working as good as it used to. And so I'm going to bend the knee and build a personal brand, right? Like I've fought this long enough. And so all I do is listen. And a lot of A lot of the answers are in what prospects and clients are sharing with you. And if you have to decide between who to focus on to get that data between clients and prospects, I would choose clients every time because they have proven that they value you through paying you. Does that make sense? So I will always prioritize client data because people can say that people, sometimes the most excited people, oh, I love your stuff, da, 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 da. They will never become a client. And it's the silent person that doesn't say anything that's the first to become a client. And so I'm going to value their data. So here's a recap for today before I get to the questions. Number one, what is your one business goal that you are prioritizing over the next 90 days that your LinkedIn Live events will support? Period. Just one. Who is the one person that you need to attract through your LinkedIn Live events to support that goal? Where are you leading them to? Number three. So when we go to strategize and create your first live event and learn how to market it, you will go into that live event knowing the one place that you're going to lead people to. Okay. And when is your one person most likely to buy? Because that will reveal the topic that you should probably create your first or next live event about. Right? Does this make sense? And I want you to send the answers to these questions. So you're going to send your LinkedIn Live video strategy to support@growthacademy.global. Number one, it will keep you accountable that you actually did it. Number two, we can provide you with feedback. So we could say this is too generic, this isn't specific enough, you want to really understand XYZ. All right, put one in the chat if you understand this, like the live if you understand this. So I'm going to put it here, Andrea, support@growthacademy.global. Tomorrow, we will learn how to market your live video event. So we'll learn how to create it and how to prep it. Because your live video event started 3 to 4 weeks ago and you don't even know it. And again, without the strategy, what will happen is you do 3 to 4 weeks of prep. You give your heart and soul. You build up the anticipation, and then you could strike out. Not because you didn't try, but because you aren't focused on what is the one outcome that you're looking to get from this and who are you really creating this for? Because without understanding the who and everything that we went through today, you won't get the results that you want. Okay. So let's get to answering questions. Shankar, if you want to come up to the stream or just come up. All right, let me go through the questions. Put your questions in the chat if you want me to answer your questions. Okay. I feel okay, Shankar.
Hello.
All right. Hold on. What do I do with the attendees from the LinkedIn Live? My business is small, so I do not have the capacity to follow up on myself. So this is a great question. Tomorrow we'll go through a process where I will teach you how to prioritize the list because I am a realist. So you have to go in knowing, okay, I have an hour this week to follow up with people that are on my attendee list. So not only are we going to invite people that are just naturally more likely to click yes and attend and actually become clients, but we'll also leverage other things to do that, to market your event, like your LinkedIn newsletter. I don't know if you have one, but I would say do the most with the time that you have with what you've got. Even if it's 10 minutes and you have a list of 100 attendees, there are ways where you could contact the right 10 and do it in a way that isn't super salesy. So we'll get to it. But the metric here is doing what you can with the time that you have instead of trying to compare yourself with someone that has a team of 10 SDRs that are just messaging people all day. So at least you're hyper aware of that. And then really the other answer is when you focus on delivering the best possible content for your one goal and your one who, a lot of those things take care of themselves, right? So when a lot of people focus 80, 90% of, oh, what's the hack? What's the this? What's the trick? What's the shortcut? I'm focusing 80 to 90% of my energy on just producing the best content possible, sharing the most that I can share, right, for free, especially compared to the baseline of my market, because I know that even if 0 people are on the live, and the odds of that happening are almost impossible, but let's say everything goes wrong and there's 0 people on the live, I know that because I focused on the content, I now have a repurposable asset that I could leverage at scale across all social media platforms with AI tools, even if I'm a solopreneur. And I will probably get a result from that. Why? Because when I go to repurpose and create those short clips and turn a 21-minute video into 7-minute 3 long form videos on YouTube, I know that the content is fire and it's actually useful to people and it's helpful. And the odds of not one person reaching out is very slim. Does that make sense? I hope that answers your question. All right. Question, how do you decide the topics to go live about that will be leading up to your main offer? We kind of answered that question. So if you have clients, the easiest thing to do is to focus on the questions that clients ask you either in your prospect calls or in your first 1 or 2 meetings with them, because those questions are probably more time pertinent, time related to your offer. So if I look at questions that clients are asking me 6 months down into working with us, which is, how do I do my challenge? How do I do my webinar? How do I build my private email list? Those questions are probably very different than when they first started, which is, how many times can I post on LinkedIn a week? How do I use slides in my LinkedIn live video? Things like that. So what I would do is I'd focus on questions around the beginning of the offer. Does that make sense? Put 1 in the chat. And click the heart button or the like button. It helps it get to more people. Hi, Shanae. How can I attract an audience for live LinkedIn video? Any tips would be greatly appreciated. So this is a great question. If you have a network, then the easiest answer is you want to leverage your invites. If you do not have a network, then you have to leverage short form content to grow your network and to attract the right people so that then you could have 2,000 plus connections to invite to these live events. And the easiest answer to that is create short form videos, polls, text posts that speak to that one person. Because if those people start to connect with you, follow you, those are going to be the people that you're going to be able to invite to these live events. And it just makes your life easier in the long term. I could have 30,000 connections if, let's say, I'm teaching how to garden. If I have 30,000 people that hate gardening in my network, it doesn't matter, right? They're not going to show up. They're not going to share it. They're going to think it's terrible. It's not going to interest them. So if you need to grow your network with the right people first, it really comes down to short form content. And the way that I see LinkedIn is really 3 systems. And I would write this down if I were you. The first system is LinkedIn newsletters. So it is leveraging the network that you already have to reach people in their emails. That's a completely different training. We have a lot of free resources on the YouTube channel. If you want to subscribe. Is it doing it? I don't know. Supposedly, if you say subscribe and like, it will glow. I don't know if it worked. If it worked, put yes in the chat. But if you watch those resources, then it's LinkedIn newsletters will get you in the emails, and we'll build a list for you of people that are active on LinkedIn. Because if I ask you to subscribe and you do, then it's either a ghost on your LinkedIn profile or you're active. The second system is short form feed, which will grow your profile. We had a client start this week. He went from like 300 and something connections to 1,600 with just short form video and some polls. And then, so growth is really short form. And then the third system is live events, which is conversion. Live events, live video events over everything have converted the most for us. What do you think about reaching out, connecting with 100 connections per week? I mean, so this is actually a good question. We had a client start with us about a month ago. He's actually an outbound strategist and focuses on LinkedIn. And he has a new problem now. So his new problem is he's getting too many inbound connections for the first time ever. So the real answer to your question is when you position yourself as an expert, the need to connect with those 100 people per week, you reaching out to them will become less and less. And then you could kind of save those connection requests for whales that really just build your third party authority and stuff and unlock a second and third degree network that you want to get in front of. But when you focus on just creating content that's helpful for people, especially showing up on live, you really won't need those connections because people will be wanting to connect with you. All right. Okay, Kizzy sent $1.99, Shankar.
Yeah, well, we got today paid for.
Okay. Okay. My first what is this called? The super chat? My first little message money on YouTube. That's funny. Okay. Let me go. Okay, so should we take at least 3 to 4 weeks to market? Yes, we'll talk about all of that tomorrow. 3-ish weeks is good. Is a quiz a good call to action? Do you have evidence that the quiz has worked for you before? Or you, so this is a good question because sometimes you could start LinkedIn live video events really not knowing what works for your business, and then you could do some testing. But if you have evidence that it's worked for you prior, then it should work for you on this platform. How important is the presentation? So what program are you using? So I'm using StreamYard, but what we find, and we'll talk about this on day 3, which is delivery. What we find is that for some people, slides can actually get in the way. And when you look at a lot of my LinkedIn live events, they don't necessarily have slides. And that is because we've tested a lot of stuff. And, we just had one client. She did 2 live events. The first one was slides. And I could tell that she's the type of person that it could make her robotic, mechanical. Her energy wasn't coming out. The second one, she did not use slides. She used an outline. She was just herself. She got 3 major business opportunities immediately after. And so it really just depends on the person. But the delivery is more important than the presentation. 2 events per month. Am I doing the exact same topic each time? No. And we'll address that tomorrow. Did you rehearse your presentation before going live? I'll look at the slides, but at this point, it's really just muscle memory. Like, hours, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours of practice. But definitely when I first started, I did. And that's one of the things. Remember, you're on LinkedIn. This is something that I cannot emphasize enough. You can go on Instagram live. Okay, we just made $5, Shankar. We made $6.99.
No, there's also
No, this is awesome.
4.99.
So,
Yeah, thank you so
what's
much.
interesting? What's interesting is my team thinks it's so funny because I'm not really money focused. I'm like money challenge focused. So if it's like the first time we made like $6 through this avenue, I'll be so excited. That's funny.
Yeah, and we just got 50,000 IDR. I don't know
What's
which currency that is.
IDR? I don't even know what that is. But thank you. Okay, so one of the things that people underemphasize when they go live on LinkedIn is that you do have to practice and prepare and present yourself a certain way. I can go in my pajamas eating chicken wings on Instagram, start late, say sorry, y'all, like I really just didn't prioritize this. If you start even 2 minutes late on LinkedIn, if you start saying, oh, there's been a technical challenge, please hold on. If you just ramble and don't really have a flow of thought that they could follow, they'll assume, oh, this wasn't a priority for you, even though I put it as a priority in my calendar. I'm not coming back to another live event of yours. I'm not giving you more of my time. These are decision makers. They have very limited time. If they put it on their calendar, it meant a lot to them to show up. And you have like 3 minutes to prove that it was also a priority for you. And a lot of people just don't do that. They destroy what could be, they'll invite 3,000 people, they'll have 500 people on the attendee list. They'll show up 10 minutes late and they'll miss out on 80% of the people that would have been live because they didn't have 10 minutes to wait. So you do want to practice and prepare in advance, and we will get to that. What exactly do I talk about? My services, what my methodology looks like, case studies of a client coaching program. So this is a great question. So based on when your ideal person buys, kind of like we talked about, you would then ask yourself, well, what question do some of my new clients ask related to those things? So in my example, if they're wanting to start going live on LinkedIn, one of the questions is, well, should I use slides? And I could do a whole LinkedIn live event on whether someone should use slides or not when they're starting to go live on LinkedIn. Another question is, can I have guests on my LinkedIn live? I could do a whole 20-minute presentation on that and on our findings. So it's really dissecting like singular questions that your prospects turned clients have asked related to the thing that they ask about really heavily before they buy. What strategies do you use and like the live, if you're enjoying this, put your questions in the chat. What strategies do you use in your LinkedIn live events to spark real-time engagement from C-suite leaders, transforming viewers into active participants? So this is actually a great question. One of the things that people don't understand about LinkedIn is that we just had a client experience this the other day. He got 17,000 impressions on a short video that got 17 likes or like 14 likes. And you may ask yourself, how is that possible? How can a video only get 14 likes, but on the back end, when you look at the data, it's getting 17,000 impressions? That's because a lot of the people, a lot of the leaders specifically on LinkedIn, they don't want to engage. Why? Because they know that their engagement is public. So if I'm a CEO with a board or I have employees and I'm telling them don't spend time on LinkedIn during the day, and then they look at my activity and see that I'm liking all this stuff, or maybe I'm interested in learning about marketing and I don't want my competitors to know that I'm liking all this marketing expert stuff, because then they may see that as a weakness. So a lot of the people will not engage. And when you look at the data, they're most likely to engage on a LinkedIn live event that is just they're 24 times the comments, 7 times the visibility and the likes. But how you get them to engage is very important. And a lot of people don't do this right. So you can't be some divorce coach, let's say, and then host a live event that's like how to divorce your spouse, because nobody wants to market that or admit that they're doing that. And then put in the chat, yes, if your spouse is terrible, put yes. If you're going to file this month, put yes, because they're not going to reveal those things. So when you do ask them to engage, it should align with who they are, and it should be things that they are actually proud of, that make them look good, and that are not on the privacy side. I see this a lot with like more emotional based coaches and career coaches. If someone is a leader and they're not supposed to be on LinkedIn, and you're telling them to engage in the comments of your live, you should be taking that to the DMs and giving them a reason to do so, where their privacy is going to be honored. Right? So it really depends. Where are the stats to analyze viewer engagement, or which stat to pay attention to regarding who's likely to buy? So the only stat to pay attention to is really the call to action. If your call to action is to get high ticket clients, and you're going to get those high ticket clients through calls, if you host a live event and you do not get any inquiries for calls, it's not time to give up. It's just time to really reassess the landscape. And like an athlete, go back and watch the play. Did you choose the right topic? Did you seem like an expert? Did you send out the replay for the replay viewers? So on and so forth. And what topic could you choose to increase your chances of getting calls next time? If it's emails, then how many emails did you get? Right? So it really depends. How do you advertise your upcoming live? We're going to be focused on that process tomorrow. And if you're going to be here tomorrow for day 2, then put 2 in the comments. I get excited about the next shiny thing, like LinkedIn live events, but the amount of time required and new things to buy and learn how to use always seems to shock me. So really this is a good question. I had a live yesterday on YouTube, and there's just one question you need to ask yourself. Are you willing to do the work required to get XYZ results? So when I look, for example, at people that are doing LinkedIn live events, I have to assume, okay, well, they're doing the research on the topic, they're scheduling it. I don't care if they have the fanciest camera, as long as the messaging is good. Maybe 2 hours of prep and then 30 minutes of presentation, that could give a lot of leverage. If I'm not willing to do that, then I back out. Just like if I'm not willing to do the work required to run a marathon, I don't keep talking about it. I just focus on the next thing that I know I'm willing to do the work for. Because if not, you could just torture yourself. Yes, everything that we're going to be focused on tomorrow is organic growth. And I really think that that's important, because once you figure out the organic promotional or marketing system that works to get the right people to your live event, not just to register, but to actually show up live and take action on your CTA, then you could leverage, paid advertising or JVs, referral partnerships, whatever, to get more people there. But until you figure out if you don't figure out the organic system, then it's like pouring gasoline on grass versus pouring gasoline on a fire, right? How do you handle the DMs in LinkedIn? Prioritize. Usually, I'll give you this one kind of strategy. Usually the most serious DMs are the shortest. Like literally, like if any CEO is messaging me, it's, when are you available for a call? I'm interested in this. 2 sentences, 3 sentences, done. So it really has to do with the shorter the message, the better, and the faster they're willing to get on a call, the better. If someone is texting you a book and wanting your time for free, it's usually not a good sign. So, I only have 247 connections on LinkedIn right now. Should I still launch the live video event? So you could create the live video event. If I were you, not like I said, I started working with someone last week. He went from a little less than 400 connections to now he's almost at 1,700. But context, this person already has a library of content. They are a huge creator on another platform. And so they come with the assets, and it really just took a strategist knowing what will pop off on LinkedIn. So that is the caveat here. If you've never created content before, then it could take maybe a couple weeks tops for you to get, 3 weeks, 4 weeks to get to 1,000 connections. So just going in with the mindset, okay, my LinkedIn live event is going to be scheduled in 4 weeks. Between now and then, I'm going to do at least 5 posts a week. And the call to action in all these posts is going to be to register for the live event. So yes, you could do it. And the beauty of this is that you don't, because it's LinkedIn, you don't necessarily need 100 people on your live event, right? We have had people that have had 4, 13, 25 people, 50 people on their live video event. But guess what? They still were able to achieve their goal, because for a very high ticket B2B coaching or consulting client, all they need is one. They may not even need a client. They may just need one vendor or B2B partnership, and they could get clients for months. Does this make sense? So that's what I would do. And if I were you, Rosa, there's a video on the channel called 90-Day LinkedIn Marketing Strategy. I go through what you should post for the first 90 days. Woo woo, super sticker. See you, Kizzy. Shanae, you are giving me so much excitement to build my 10K and 10-day challenge via LinkedIn. I love it. Thank you for the encouragement. Yeah, and if you're doing a challenge and it's on Zoom, then, really it's just about sharing, and the next logical step being to come to the Zoom. Thank you, Dion. Thank you, Farah. I appreciate that. All right. Why did you choose to do this on YouTube? Because I was curious. I was like, what would happen if, I'm constantly testing. If you ever see me doing something new, just know that there's a rhyme and a reason. I know Andrea is laughing right now. And that's really, I think that's one of the things that separate us, Shankar, from a lot of people, is that, yes, it was a risk to do this today on YouTube. I was like, but in the worst case scenario, crashes and burns, and we just recoup back to Zoom on day 2. The best case, we just experienced something new and we help more people. And I don't know, you just never know unless you try. Shankar, I don't know if you want to add to that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. First of all, it turned out great. A lot of you were engaged, great questions. There's definitely a wider reach, I would say. And very important, we constantly sharpen a skill that is super important in business, and that is to be flexible. So I really like it.
Yes, there's always a method to the madness. Question, any history getting to your target by someone close to the prospect? Yeah, we had a client recently. She is an IP expert and she serves founders, but her actual target market on LinkedIn through data and what we found is actually the lawyers for the founders. So she was able to secure a lot of strategic relationships so that they bring her onto the team so that she can consult the startup founder. And so that's just one case scenario, right? It doesn't always have to be the direct person that you serve, because sometimes on LinkedIn, the person, kind of what you're saying, that's close to them, that could be a B2B person, will actually, take action with less resistance. And so that is what we have for today. If you're going to be here for date, and we're 4 minutes over, so I'm going to stop. If you're going to be here for day 2, put day 2 in the chat. I'll put this up here one more time. You're going to message us, and you can take a screenshot or whatever. When you're creating your LinkedIn live video strategy, what is your one business goal that live video events will support? Who is the one person that we need to attract to achieve that goal with the least resistance? Where's the one place that you're leading them to? When is your one person most likely to buy? And if you do not know, just go back and listen to some of the conversations you've had with clients. And when you're having these conversations, don't self-audit the questions. For example, a lot of clients, when they start working with us, they will ask me, do I use slides in my lives? And even though that's not my favorite question, I'm not going to put my opinion on that. That is a pattern. Multiple people have asked me at the beginning of our journey. It is my duty and responsibility to create a live to answer that question in depth. It's not whether I like the question, whether it's my favorite question. If I have seen that multiple one-on-one clients who invest very heavily in themselves have asked this question, then that's the question I have to answer. And then this is where you submit it. support@growthacademy.global for accountability and feedback. All right. Share your favorite part of today's live in the chat before we close. And I'm excited for day 2. Day 2 is fun. Day 2 is all about marketing. So really, how can you get the right people, not just to register to your live event, but to actually show up to your live event? And then also, how can you distribute your live event to replay viewers in a way that may be a little bit different than live viewers? We're going to talk all about that tomorrow. God bless you, everyone. Ciao.